Reradiate has been like one of the most inspiring albums of my lifetime.
Oh, wow, man. Thank you. That, your whole life?
No doubt, man. Like, for real, that album had a huge impact on me, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy because all the DCS catalog is like timeless hits, you know, but that's what's so inspiring to me about it, is that like all this time, all these years later, you still come out with like this caliber of material, you know what I mean? And like still interested as a band and still striving forward as a band, you know what I mean? Like that's part of what I loved about it so much.
Well, that's incredibly kind, man. Thank you. I think that it's probably, if it's not our best record, it's the second best one. It feels like a complete and sort of mature record written by a group of people who have some amount of experience, you know? I think like we can talk about the first few records later, but I think that the last two that we did feel somehow complete, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like they're constructed in such a way that there's like a theme and everything kind of belongs together, even though they're kind of varied. The songs are varied, but thank you. I mean, that's incredibly kind of you to say. And it's also humbling. Thank you.
And when you say your last record and when you said, if not your best, your second best, are you referring to The Morning After? Was that the previous album?
So, yeah. So The Morning After to me sounds like our first truly cohesive record. Like thematically it holds together and there's kind of a theme or thread that runs through the whole thing that ties it together. And I think that was probably the result of, you know, we had been on the road at that point for a bunch of time, and, you know, we went in and recorded it very quickly. Also, you know, we were breaking up when we were making the record. So I think some of that tension may be audible on the record. So yeah, I think that was the first time when we were done with it, it was like, oh man, we really put together something that, you know, is a full idea. And so, yeah, I think we did that with Reradiate too, but I'm not sure because, you know, the other record came out like 10 years ago or something. So I've had plenty of time to reflect on it.
Well, the crazy thing about your band, Daycare Swindlers, is from like right off the bat with New and Tasty, you guys had your own signature sound, but then like each album you kept like redefining and developing that signature sound. And by the time, like, that's my other favorite Daycare Swindlers album is The Morning After. Like, there's just so many super deep cuts and like intelligent, interesting punk rock on there, you know, like but it flows naturally. Like the Daycare Swindlers write like eclectic music without like that being a gimmick, like that you push the envelope or something. It's just like the way you guys rock. And that's what I love about it so much, because it's like thought-provoking music. You know, I'm not just talking like lyrically, like musically, the structures and the arrangements. It's exciting, you know what I mean? And like an album like New and Tasty, Testosterosa, those are the kinds that would like, you know, slap you in the face upon the first listen, but you kept getting better at like writing music that just gets better and more interesting each time you hear it, like offering some, like just more textured, you know what I mean? Like, is that something that you guys as a band noticed as you were going into your like later years? Like you're almost like 2 decades in now.
Yeah, well, this is year 20. If you don't,
oh yeah, that's right. I saw the meme.
Yeah. So if you don't count the vacation, the 4-year vacation, this is year 20.
Was it 4 years?
And, yeah. Yeah, it was 2004 to 2008.
Oh, yeah. So you guys, you like kind of separated right around the time that No Cash broke up. It was like that summer of 2004.
Yeah, that was like the summer of death. Like around here, a bunch of DC bands broke up that had been together for an appreciable number of years, and you guys broke up, and yeah, there like a lot of bands woke up that summer like, fuck it, I can't do it anymore.
I was really surprised when y'all did. It was kind of like, whoa, really? You know, but I wasn't surprised when you got back together. I was like, yeah, of course, like belong together.
Yeah, it's weird, man. You know, you get to a point where you're kind of facing down real life, and you know, we were never like a super aggressive touring machine, but we had spent our whole career really on record labels, and you know, there was always a carrot in front of your face. You know, if you guys just do this tour, or if you just do this, then the next thing will happen, and the next thing will happen. And the next thing was getting further and further away and harder to get to. And, you know, the band, there's five guys in the band. Well, now there's six, and everybody's got their own idea of what happiness is. And not everybody's idea of happiness is being in a van that smells like, you know, dudes for several months out of the year is happiness. And people wanted to have families and start building careers and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it was maybe it was surprising on the outside, but on the inside, it was kind of coming for a while. And it was just, you know, what are we going to do next that's going to, you know, we can continue on like this, or we can kind of set it down for a while and see what happens. I didn't think we would get back together.
Really?
I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was it. And, you know, we stayed pretty close, especially after the first year. For me, it took like a year to like let go of all the resentment and sort of emotion that builds up over the course of a band's career. Yeah. And I didn't really want it to end. I wasn't ready for it to end. And I think probably in some pretty unhealthy ways, my identity was super tied up in that band. And
oh, for sure.
It took a long time to like figure out like who the fuck am I without these guys? And but we stayed friends, and you know, we did these reunion shows, and the reunion shows were super well attended and very exciting for me personally. They were really exciting. So when we got back together, it felt it was a huge relief for me.
Well, you guys like sold out the 930 Club, didn't you, with that reunion show you did?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't. Well, we came close to selling it out, but it wasn't. Yeah, we sold it out.
I mean, that's a massive place, though. There's videos, because isn't that where you shot some of the footage for the Darkness video? Yeah.
That was the farewell show from the footage that's in the Darkness video. So as far as we knew, that night was the last one.
Wow.
And yeah, so but yeah, so the crowd size was similar for the reunion show, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are extremely beloved in like your area, that DC area. Like your fans are super loyal. Like when we did that show together at Fat Tuesdays, it was like as rowdy as if we would have like flashed back to Verona's in 2001. You know what I mean? On that first No Cash tour. Even saw some of the same people.
There are some of the same people, which is nuts, because you know they have jobs and houses and families and stuff. But a lot of those people still come to the shows, and then there's like a whole. This is how you know you're old, Chris. this is how you know that you've crossed some threshold, because you're going to recognize that people that used to come to your shows are now bringing their kids to your shows. That's
awesome.
when you know you've been in the game for a long time. So there's new people coming too, which is great, which is really cool.
Well, what's really cool about Daycare Swindlers is like the band has grown and evolved like as its own living entity. It like didn't just stay in some little like incubator playing the same idea out over and over again. Like, I like that you guys are fearless with new material at shows. Like, we're a band. This is what we're here to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're never slaves to a genre really, or like a set list.
No, and that's true. Yeah, I mean that's kind of always been the hallmark of the band. The first record, there's definitely like a style there, but those are just the songs that we had when the five of us got together. And I think as soon as the second record starts, you can tell it's kind of like spinning off all these different directions, and it's because everybody in the band writes music. Noah writes all the lyrics, but the five of us all bring our interests and our influences to the songwriting process. And it's pretty rare that somebody will write a song that just simply doesn't fit, or that people will say, nah, we can't do that. Even when somebody brings in something that's really off the wall, like, we'll workshop the song and kind of beat it up and change it enough that it becomes a Daycare Swindlers song enough. You know?
Are there like times when you start with an idea, like maybe you've got this song and by the time it's gone through all the processes of each member, it's you don't even recognize it anymore?
Yeah, that happens for sure. That not a lot. I think when we got back together, that happened more than it did in the past, because people were writing music independent of the band and not expecting it to come back to the band. So in some ways, people were kind of being more true to themselves in the songwriting process, because they were just sitting in a room with a guitar and not expecting to have to play it in front of Daycare Swindlers fans. So, people were starting to write country music and metal, and and those things had kind of always been an undertone for us. But I think when we got back together, people were a little less shy about bringing out all this other stuff. And the things that are categorized as other stuff, to me, are pretty exciting. And I feel pretty proud of some of the stuff that's kind of left of the dial.
Yeah, and it's cohesive too on the album. So it's like you say, you've got a metal track like Nebula, then you've got a straight up like ripping punk song like Page Full of Names. Right next to it, you've got like what the song before Page Full of Names is Bicycle Seat. It's like a up tempo, feel good ska, like hip hop type track. But it's all webbed. It's all in a similar web. Like it doesn't play like a compilation or anything. You know what I mean? Like it all fit together somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of that has to do with sequencing and, the conversations and arguments that happen over putting the record in order can go on for a while. But, largely like Scroat, I think, put Reradiate in order. I think he made the order, and it's really important, because we're not a band we're not like a singles band. The record is a complete idea. So, I mean, certainly you can pull songs off it and people have favorites and whatever, but when we're putting it together, we're trying to make it flow. And Scroat is kind of the master of that. And I think I think that order that we have is the one that he came up with.
Yeah, I love
it's not easy to. The order's great, right? It's not easy to put together songs that, some of those songs seemingly, if you put like Page Full of Names next to the title track, they would not even seem like the same band except for Noah's voice, you know?
but Noah's also so varied with his vocals. Like that's one thing that I talked to him about. Like his range is incredible. Like he's all over the place as a vocalist too. So it's like, and you know, you can hear it's him. It's the same guy, but it's almost as if like the band has 4 different singers. Like, okay, here's our punk singer. Now here comes our DJ reggae toaster. Like now here, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And we have Luke in the band now. So this is the first record that we've done with Luke in the band, and with him and Scrope, we can now do 3-part harmonies, which we couldn't do before. Mike does a lot of backing vocals, but he's a screamer. You know, he's got sort of this guttural, kind of powerful voice, but he doesn't do a lot of harmony singing. So with Luke there and Mark, we added this new element that's not on any of the records, and certainly nothing we've been able to do live, which is 3-part harmony, and that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking back about the order of the tracks, I'm just curious about this. I think that the track listing, there are 2 songs that are out of order on the. Did you ever notice that on the back of the CD?
No, never. No. What are you talking about?
All right. No, dude.
Yeah.
I've had so many, like that's the story of my life. That's one thing I love about the album too. It's like, I've never had a box of records or CDs come back and not be like heartbroken or disappointed. You know what I mean?
Every time. That's sort of that's the story of being an independent band.
Yeah.
There's no producer, there's no one looking out for it. It's just you guys and the ancillary people that you've pulled in to help you, but it's not, you're not like Genesis. There's no art director.
Right.
So, there's two track sequences, and I think that the songs are screwed up on Grace Note. So they're on the internet with the wrong song titles.
Yeah. It was El Coliche and, was it It's Alive? Those are the 2 that were like.
I think so.
Yeah. And
yeah, and that happened because the CD version of the record is longer than the vinyl version. Vinyl has a time limit, and we really wanted to do vinyl, so a couple tunes had to come off.
Oh, and what didn't make the vinyl?
It's Alive isn't on the vinyl.
Oh, what a bummer.
And oh man, there's one other one that's not on there, and I forget what it is. Two songs came off.
Fuck vinyl then. I couldn't part with a single track off of that album, man. And it's crazy because like the first time you hear the album, like Bad Luck, Bicycle Seat, those songs stick out and you're like, these are my favorite songs on the album. Then after about like 40, 50 plays, now like Unwinding and The Wheel and It's Alive and these songs that like maybe didn't grab you initially, but like there's like you know what I mean? There's always like that with an album. You have like the hits that stand out and then like the deeper cuts. But over time, the deeper cuts become your favorite. You know what I mean? And you still love the hits, of course, but like It's Alive that's one of my favorite tracks. And I heard the story about like you wrote the music for that song, right?
I did. Yep.
And it was like the way Noah explained it was so cool. Like, cause I love Frankenstein, man. Like that's one of my favorite stories. And I'm just super into that old monster shit. And like when he's explaining how the song was just composed of all like different parts and stitched together by like a madman, I was like, oh man. And the lyrics, like, yeah, it was just perfect, man. I would, that'd be pretty sad to hear the record without that on it.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I think next time, if there is a next time, we'll be more mindful of the track length and trying to make sure that the whole thing fits on wax as opposed to doing 2 different versions. Because it can become political too. Like, what do you cut off? And trying to achieve consensus, like whose song is going to get left off, can be, you know, we don't want to make those kind of choices. So
yeah, you don't
even though the digital version, of course, has everything, but
you don't want to cut anybody out of those mechanical royalties, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think of the thousands and thousands of dollars that I'm personally losing by not having It's Alive on the vinyl, and
you should sue those guys, man.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I never thought of suing my own band.
Class action lawsuit. Yeah, like, so
Yeah.
Talking about just disasters from the printing company, I mean, like, from the beginning, man, a Mad Conductor, like Mechanical Claw CD comes back. The CD looks like some kid printed it on his mom's printer. Renegade Space Rock, this collage that I worked on for months and months, cutting all this little pieces out of the magazine and gluing together like a jungle. I didn't know about Bleed Edge back then. I lost like a good, like, 36 hours of work, you know what I mean, from the Bleed Edge. Not to mention, after like rereading the lyrics, it's littered with spelling errors. MC Rises, I paid a lot of money for this artist to make this fold out poster, a 9-panel poster. Do you remember how Green Day Insomniac was set up? It was like a huge poster that folded out, and somehow the center panel was, and this took me forever to explain to him. I'm like, just find Green Day Insomniac and look at it. And they're like, okay. They had to build like a special thing to like fold it, and it still got fucked up, and the wrong panel was the poster, and that was a nightmare. And it was just like, I don't know. It's really tough, man. But I don't think that major labels are always immune to that either. Like, I was reading through Rancid's liner notes for Rancid 2000, and then the lyrics, they're like misspelled there. Like, it was supposed to be there, but it was there as in like possession. I'm like, come on, guys. Fucking Rancid, man. Hire me as your proofreader. I will be Rancid's proofreader, and you will never have a spelling error in you. Although I guess I'm just admitting that I had a ton of spelling. I know to look for it now, and then have like other eyes look at it. You know, I got a system now, man. But wasn't your first record, was it cut at the wrong speed? Did I hear a story about that?
Oh, man. Yeah. So it's so interesting. Like all the mistakes and things that you learn the hard way doing it DIY. And you're going to have to give me an old man moment, because I'm going to have one. Like, it used to be a lot fucking harder to do this shit like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because there was no Photoshop, or the version of Photoshop that existed was not like it is now. And, you know, hard disk recording wasn't really cool yet. It was kind of like, I'm going to fucking edit this audio at the DOS prompt. And, you know, it was not like it is now. So you learn by making all these mistakes and doing shit the hard way. And like, the New and Tasty was us like trying to kind of build our own shop where we were self-contained. We're, you know, there was no record label yet. So Mike taught himself how to do the artwork. Like, he cut together that front cover at a Kinko's with a razor blade and transparencies. And that's,
oh, wow.
He taught himself how to do that. And I went out and bought like a 24-channel Mackie and an ADAT machine. I got in a car accident, and I had some settlement money, and I went out and bought this recording gear, and I was making recordings in my apartment, and I drugged the recording stuff over to Stevie's basement, and that's how we started making New and Tasty. So, you know, it's funny because from those experiences of making that first record, Mike became a graphic artist and pre-press guy by trade. Wow. And I slowly became an audio professional, which is a thing that I still do to this day. So it's those experiences that kind of like those DIY efforts to try to contain and build your own thing and do as much of it as you can became lifelong pursuits, which is cool. But the first go around had many mistakes and trials and tribulations. So yeah, we started the record on one 8-app machine. 8-app machines only would, it's all we had at the time. 8-app, not a cool recording format, but there was 2 versions of the machine. There was an old version and a new version. I had the new one. Sample rate was different. We ended up finishing the record at a studio that had 8-app machines, but they had the old one, different sample rate. Nobody knew what they were doing. Nobody noticed that the sample rates weren't compatible. So when you listen to New and Tasty, what you're hearing is the thing actually sped up because it was tracked. It was tracked back and forth between 44.1 and 48. And the final mix is faster. But here's a crazy thing about New and Tasty. So we did the drums in Stevie's basement on 8 tracks, and it was not that great. So I replayed all the drums to the guitars that we had tracked at the wrong speed. So I had to play everything faster. Then Noah went back and re-sang everything also at the wrong speed. So everything is pitched up. So what you hear Noah doing on that record is singing to guitars and bass that is pitched up almost a full step, not quite a full step, but so yeah, that's what happened with that record.
So if you wanted to play along with that album, you would have to tune to the album because it's the songs are in the key of some semitone.
Yeah, or do this. If you've got GarageBand or some recording software at home, just import the tracks into a session that's 44.1, and then change the sample rate and
remix it.
Yep. So yeah, anyone that's been like, "What the fuck is going on? I can't figure these songs out." It's not your fault.
That's pretty interesting though. And I mean, that's a classic album. Like people love that album. And I wonder if it would have come off the same way had that not been how it was cut,
Yeah, I wonder too, because there's like an energy there and it's kind of frantic and
it's hype. It's super hype. That's the thing. It is frantic and like Crystal Meth, especially like, I mean, it makes sense to me that it would be sped up like that, The album was on speed. It's crazy.
The album was literally under the influence.
Yeah, that's so nuts. But when you talk about the cover of it, so was that album re-released with an alternate cover? Because I have like an old one where it's got like the DCS logo and then like the transparency. But wasn't there also a cover that had like Noah screaming with the mohawk?
Yeah. So our first record label, we were on Vile Beat, and part of the record deal was that they were going to re-release New and Tasty, and they wanted to change the cover, so they had their graphics guy make a new one.
I always wondered about that label because I never knew of another artist on it. Vile Beat, was that like a DC thing?
Yeah, well, so there was Vile Beat and Beatville, and that record label was started by Mark Dickinson, who was part of Ross Records, Real Authentic Sound, which is like a subsidiary of Rounder, and they were a reggae imprint. I think largely they were doing reissue stuff. They would go back and find this hard to get Jamaican reggae stuff and re-release it. And
cool.
And ska too. So the catalog was super cool. I think actually it's mostly reggae. But Mark started his own record label, which was Beatville. And the first the first Riverboat Gamblers record is on Vile Beat or Beatville.
Okay.
I don't remember. And they did some other stuff that was notable at the time, like the bass player from Tool had a band called Peach, and he put that out. And what else was on there? I don't remember, but there was some cool. He put out a bunch of cool kind of like authentic ska records and some punk rock stuff and some darker metal things. But yeah, I mean, actually, there weren't that many bands from DC on that label. I think maybe it was just us.
Huh. And are you still like, does that label still operating? Like, do they still print those records?
I don't. I know we still buy records from him so that we can sell them.
Yeah. Live.
I don't know how active it is. You know, it's tough to keep like a record label going when it's not your primary focus, and that was 20 years ago. So you can still get a bunch of that stuff. A lot of the catalog is out of print, but some of it's still around.
It's also tough to get a hold of a record label to find out what the fuck is going on anyway. Like, so do they have like total right? I don't know if this is like too personal to ask, but I'm just kind of curious. We can cut it out. But like, do they sell your music digitally online too, or do you guys have rights for that? Like, was that part of your contract?
It was not part of the contract.
That's amazing then, man, because that's the thing that really like grinds my gears and gets my goat and other alliterations about the no cash stuff. It's like, I get it. We signed a record contract with you, but now he's like we don't own the masters. He can just sell those online, do whatever, collect whatever royalties from streams on YouTube, you know, and it's just like, it's so nonsensical to me that that's how it would be. But the thing that makes me feel better is that like Mad Conductor is completely independent. Like we've got the rights to all that shit. Like nobody even has a say in anything. So it's like, you know, a good lesson that I learned, I guess, but kind of the end of a bad joke. Like, you know, what do you get for no cash? No cash. It's like,
yeah,
there's the name, you know.
Yeah. We were all in that boat, man, back then, because the label was still important. You felt kind of like you needed a record label back then, or somehow that there was credibility in that. And I think all of us, you guys, us, you know, the other bands that were kind of like us, Hudson Falcons, you know, like the road dogging, like C-tier punk bands that were around, we were signing these contracts that were, you know, I don't think anyone was intending to screw us. I don't think that was how it was set up. I think that everyone was just playing the same game. And mathematically, financially, those contracts were pretty generous if you held them up to other bigger record contracts. But there was no fucking way that anybody was going to make any money. And, you know, not that that was the point, but if you wanted to stay on the road and you wanted to keep going, you needed something, right? You needed something to fuel the machine so that it can continue to not collapse. And it just wasn't going to work. And I think if you go back and you look at the way those contracts are structured, you were fucked from the get-go. You know, the advances were so small that you had two choices. Right. But you could have a lawyer look at the contract for you and spend the entire advance having that happen, or you could go and get 5 days of studio time and cut a record and mix it in 5 days. And those were kind of your choices.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not the reality today. People are much more in control of what they do, and the record label is not nearly as important as it was. Now, a booking agent is the important thing. Not that it wasn't back then, because, man, fuck, if we had a booking agent, life would have been way different. But
yeah, totally.
You guys, us, all of us, we signed these contracts that just were a zero-sum game.
One of the only times that I dealt with a booking agent, and I think that you guys worked with him too, was that German guy. Didn't you go over to Germany under that same guy that No Cash did?
Oh, Gate to Hell, right?
Is that what they were called? That's what it was,
Gate
man.
to Hell.
That tour was, I mean, it was great to be in Germany, but that tour was hell for us, man. We got kicked off of that tour.
I remember you telling us that because we played together. We did Nazareth one day and then Allentown the next day, right?
Yeah, like right when we got back in the summer. Yeah, we played at that what was that? It was like a I don't know what to call it, like a trendy pop bar, like some like Banana Republic looking bar. You know what I'm talking about? It was like,
yeah, it was like a sports bar with like a nautical theme. I know what you're talking about. We
like
played
tiki
outside,
torches.
right? In like August.
Yeah, and we played outside. It was a fun show. Yeah. My buddy,
sure.
we were still underage, but we had all fake IDs, and my buddy got thrown out of the show because he was wearing it was like 21 and up, and he had like stolen some kid's like Nazareth High wrestling jacket or some shit. He was like wearing it there. Like, not even your jacket, man. And he got him kicked out. That was a fun show though. But that German tour, what happened was like, as soon as we got there, the guy like was just being really weird. Like, he wanted us to pee sitting down in his apartment. He was like, Americans know nothing of hygiene. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. So I'm like, just going in, take a pee. And then he's like waiting for me outside of the door. And he's like, next time you will sit. And I'm just like, dude, are you seriously listening to me in the bathroom? You know what I mean? And then what got really weird was like, I don't know, man. That was during like when the Iraq war was like just starting in 2003, around then. And like, a lot of people were giving us shit about being American, and that guy was telling us to get up on stage and like denounce America and George Bush. And I'm like, well, look, normally I would without you having to ask me, but just because you're telling me to do it, like, you can go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? So like every show we get up on stage, and we obviously, No Cash, we weren't patriotic, but we'd get up there and be like, we're from America, motherfuckers. And everybody would be like, yeah. And the crowd would cheer, but it would piss our tour agency off. And we woke up one morning and the driver was gone. The bus was gone. Our rented gear was gone. And all of our bags were like in the fucking parking lot outside of the squat house or youth center, wherever the hell they had us booked. We didn't play any venues. It was all like weird basements of these little like hostels and shit. I mean, it was an epic adventure, don't get me wrong, but it was just the wrong agency. I don't know. Did you guys have a good time over there?
We didn't go, man. I
thought you went over there.
Oh yeah. We were booked to go over there, but we broke up before we got on the plane.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it was the straw, like, we are not gonna fucking go to Europe, and we're just not gonna do it because everyone was broke, it was getting kind of desperate, and no one had any money. So the logic was, if we were in Europe for 3 weeks and not working for that amount of time, it would be pretty catastrophic for things back home. So
yeah,
that was, we canceled the tour.
Yeah, for some reason I thought that you like had set me up with that guy, or I don't know.
I did.
You did? All right.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, we could have handled it better, but he had booked the entire tour for us before we backed out of it.
That happens.
And no money had changed hands, so it wasn't, it wasn't like we didn't screw him that way, but I explained exactly what was going on. There was just no way that it was gonna work out.
Yeah. Now, like, shortly before that, y'all had been touring with Leftover Crack.
Mm-hmm.
What was that run like, or those runs?
They were great. Those are some of my favorite shows because all the pressure is off you to, you're not the main draw, so you can just kind of get out there and do your thing and not worry about the attendance and all that stuff. And they were blowing up at that point.
Yeah.
And they were like a well-oiled machine live. They were super, super tight, and they would just go out there and blow shit up every night. It was really, really cool. And I think we learned a lot about how to kind of run a band successfully by watching some of the stuff that they did.
Some.
That's a heavy emphasis on some.
Yeah. Not like burning paper mache World Trade Centers on stage.
That stuff came later. That, yeah, some of that wasn't their best move. But the Leftover Crack has always been really, really good to us. And I think, candidly, there's a big lesson there. And, kind of what you see unfolding on stage isn't always what is going on after the show and what those guys are really like. Because they were always, and still are, actually very kind and cool to us. And we just went out with them last year for a couple of shows, and they treat us great and like brothers, really. And Sturgeon and Noah go back to, they spent time together in New York City, and they know each other very well. So that having them as allies is cool.
Yeah. You guys had a lot of good friends, I remember, like Hudson Falcons, Two Man Advantage. Like, those were other well-known bands that you guys were, like, real tight with, I remember.
Yes. Yeah, and we still are. We don't do much with the Hudson Falcons these days, but we're doing a split LP with Two Man that's going to come out in October, and we're going up to New York.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that. No, it's fine. So, and then both bands are 20 years old this year.
Cool.
So we're going to go up there and do their 20-year anniversary shows.
Oh, I'm there, man. Dude, Two Man Advantage was insane.
Dude, they still are.
Being super young at their shows, and it was just like fucking madness.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like dangerous.
Dangerous
as hell. Something's going to go
hell.
wrong here. Something is going to go terribly wrong.
Hockey punk. Like, it's fucking nuts. Yeah, it's so cool. And around that time, that was like an exciting era for Daycare Swindlers fans, like as a Daycare Swindlers fan, because you were just signed to Go-Kart and Heathen Radio came out, which is another, I mean, I don't know, I could say that about every record. Another one of my favorite, I really love the band, and like each record is so unique amongst the other ones. So like that was a cool era, and in that time, like it was the perfect album for that time. You know what I mean?
Yes. But no.
Did you cut that record too? Because that's what I was gonna ask. Like, for some reason, I thought that you had started recording the band at the morning after, but you were doing it all along. Or were there albums like? Did you cut Testosterosa and Heathen Radio as well?
No, so Testosterosa was done in a studio, and I didn't record that. I did not record Heathen Radio, although I mixed part of it. I recorded all of In Loving Memory, but I didn't mix it. Somebody else mixed it.
That album is crazy.
Pretty dark, right?
It's super dark. Yeah, like that. Like I said, each album standing out. Like that one certainly does, and it's got like this super like DC hardcore sound, but it's so grim. Noah and I talked about that too, like how you guys like wrote it in a basement, and like it just made sense to me the way it sounds.
Yeah. So it was like, that was the first time we've kind of like, we sat down and we're like, oh, all right. So we want the record to sound a certain way. Like, we want it to have like an aesthetic. And I think so in tracking it, we did that. Like, we got this really kind of roomy drum sound, super raw. Not, even though we like close mic the drum set, we used a lot of room mics. So it sounds big and kind of trashy. And, all of even though we were still like using digital in the basement, everything was going through 2 preamps, and we're kind of letting the red lights hit. You know, we were spanking stuff pretty hard, and I think we kind of lost some of that when we mixed it. You know, it's a hard thing to explain to somebody, because you go to a professional mix engineer and you say, hey, this is what we're going for. Your inclination as a mix engineer is going to be, hey man, I need to make this sound really good. And we didn't want it to sound really good. So there's this kind of conflict between the super raw, dirty, almost oppressive sound, bleak, and what ended up happening. So even though the record was fucking weird from the get-go, it ended up getting even weirder because it's like the mix is just kind of, what the fuck? I don't think the guy did a bad job. I think we just did a bad job conveying what we were trying to do. You know?
Would you consider like remixing and re-releasing it? Do you still have the stems?
I mean, we have all that stuff. I'm not sure how valuable that is. It's the document. It's the thing.
Yeah.
It exists. Right. Remastering is one thing. And I understand why, and I do understand why bands go back and remix stuff. I don't think that there's a big clamor for that record to be remixed. You know what I mean?
I've got a copy that all you guys autographed, and that's super special to me. I really like, I treasure that, you know? I think the disc looks really cool too. Like, I think with CDs, it's super hard to get the actual disc art to look good. And I think with the silver and saying Daycare Swindlers with red on black right around the center, it's classy. That's a classy looking disc.
Yeah, Mike did the artwork for that too. And I think like that was he really, it's a new level for him, because the artwork conveys probably even better than the actual record does what we were feeling at the time, which is sort of like, yeah.
It's the same color as the music. Yeah, it's like, it's gray and
same
black.
Color as the music. Yep.
Totally, man, for sure. Like, but going back to Heathen Radio, I sensed like, were you not happy with that record?
Next question.
Oh man, I love that album, dude. Like,
good. A lot of people love it.
Long Hard Road, man. That's like essential Daycare Swindlers.
There are certainly things on that record that I think are really good, and songs that we still like play all the time.
The Man.
That's one of them.
Dude,
that's a song that's on there.
Love that song. That's a song that's on there. Man, I'm surprised to hear that. Like, I thought that was, and you know, in that time, it was like, that was what was coming out. Like that street punk style, like Rancid had put out Rancid 2000, you know, Mediocre Generica just dropped, which was like such a step from No Gods, No Managers. You know, it was like much more like crass, and I don't mean like the band crass. I'm just like using the word crass. Like,
right.
It just made sense for that era. I think like punk was getting punker again. Like it had kind of hit the peak, like from Green Day and then Blink-182 and then Simple Plan. And it was just like, no, like this isn't the direction we're taking punk. And like everybody just came out with like the rawest shit after that, which was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is very much an utterance of that moment in punk rock, because, and so was In Loving Memory for us. We had written a bunch of ska songs on those first 2 records, And that stuff is a lot of fun to play, and it makes people dance at shows, and it's great. But it also is not very good at conveying sort of more complex ideas lyrically. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so as a canvas for discontent and kind of voicing some darker ideas,
okay,
or some uttering some, some, I guess, some grimmer thoughts, putting it over an upstroke, guitar is not always. It doesn't always. It certainly wasn't working for us, and it didn't. Everybody was kind of making that transition, like you were saying. So we made this conscious decision to not put any ska songs on those records. So it was a transition period too.
I think though
that's the same thing that happened to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, lyrically though, I think that Daycare Swindlers have always been profound. Like, you have your fun, silly songs, but lyrically, like, I'm a lyrics guy, man. You know me, like hip hop head, and that's like punk music. I'm so selective with it because I feel like so many punks and punk songwriters are lazy with their lyrics. Like, just because you say like something I may agree with politically doesn't mean that it's lyrically good. Like, if you just have a song that's just like, fuck the police, like smash the state, it's like, okay, yeah, I concur, but it doesn't do anything to like tickle my fancy in terms of like that literary bone that I've got, like I seek that. I seek like interesting analogies and metaphors, and I think that that's like also in a way that Daycare Swindlers is ever evolving, because you get to like the morning after and Reradiate. It's just like, I don't know. I don't mean to like just spend an hour giving you guys praise in the band. But I really, I really love the band. I think it's cool that we've been friends, like, dude, since I got started. You know what I mean? Like, my first show of my first tour ever was with you guys at Verona's Pizza, and then I crashed at Noah's house, and it was like you guys from early on took us under your wing, you know what I mean? And now still friends, talking to this day. I think it's really cool, man.
That's one of the best things about being in a band is these relationships that you make that have really the potential to last a very, very, very long time. And if you go into this game if you go into it with some degree of selflessness and your intentions are honest, like all you want to do is show up and play music and meet people, then you've created a situation where you can build relationships that last almost an entire lifetime. And you guys, the Hudson Falcons, Two Man, these are people that are still in their lives. I just got married, and
congratulations, man.
Thank you. Thanks, man. And people from these bands that we started off with were at my wedding, and we check in with each other all the time and are involved at least tangentially in each other's lives, and we know what's going on, and that's been as valuable and important and cool as any of the crazy experiences on the road or any of the any of that stuff. These relationships that just keep going are so awesome and special, and hashtag blessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was like your first impression of us though? Because like, I don't know, looking back, I'm surprised that all y'all like took us seriously,
I think that you're probably selling yourself short a little bit. We had heard before we met you guys, we had heard that Team Spyder split you guys did.
Yeah.
And it had Home Life is a Drag on it. And everybody thought that song was amazing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it doesn't hurt that you show up with some tunes in your pocket that are really great and people automatically kind of respect you, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't think, I'm sure there are people out there that have had experiences with some or all of us that they would consider to not be positive. But
good way to put it.
when we met, it was pretty clear that we were kind of all cut from the same cloth and trying to do the same thing, and that you can kind of tell, I think, when you meet a band and music is not the most important thing that they have going on. And the music is maybe an afterthought. It's a vehicle to try to achieve something else, maybe.
Yeah.
Whether that's popularity or fame or even to say something political, whatever it is, the music is an afterthought. And it's kind of hard to relate to those types of people. And I don't think I know, I don't have any of those people in my life anymore. So you can kind of tell, just kind of on a molecular level, that someone is sort of like you. And you guys were fucking crazy. Also, you toured with a football. You guys always had a football with you.
Yeah.
And we always had a football with us.
I remember that.
So I knew we were brothers. Like, oh, these guys, they know what's going on.
Hell yeah, man.
Did you guys ever break any fingers with your football?
Oh, we haven't. One night, I remember the story, and I want to hear exactly what happened. You broke your hand. I heard about that. We did have a roadie who mysteriously broke a sink, ripped a sink off of a wall at a club, and we had to go to the hospital after the show, and he got all stitched up, and he had this huge wrap around his finger the whole time, and we were like at the beach, and I remember like looking, he couldn't swim, and I looking in at the beach, and he just had like sitting on the beach all sad with like one big finger pointed up in the air. He's just looking ridiculous. But he ended up leaving the tour halfway through, so I don't know, just too much for him. But I don't know why he ripped the sink off the wall. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, back then, I mean, it's 99% of the time you can account for the stuff that you did, but that 1% of the time, what the fuck was I thinking? Why did I do that? You can never recreate that stupid logic.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that guy can't either.
It was weird, yeah. And I mean, we didn't get in trouble with the venue or whatever because he played it off like it was shoddy installation or something. But then the same dude,
it's your fault.
I don't want to like throw him under the bus, like if it ever gets back to him, but like I think this is all funny now, you know. But he shoplifted one of those like 25-cent pack of crackers from a gas station in Arizona, and we ended up like, we're running out of the store and we're like, go, like the dude knew, he's like, hey, get back here. And so dumb. And we ended up getting pulled over on the highway by like a superhero cop, and he pulled us out in the desert and searched us. He's like, you know, obviously found weed and paraphernalia and
sure.
And yeah, all over a 25-cent pack of crackers. Just, I would have given him the quarter had I foreseen that shit. Or it might have been one of those 50-cent sticky buns, in which case he would have been out of luck. I didn't have 50 cents. I had 25 on it.
Yeah, there's so many things that you do when you're young and you're kind of, it's like I said, man, it's impossible to recreate some of that logic because it's not logic. It's shenanigans.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Put yourself.
Well, you broke your hand?
No, I broke my finger.
Your finger.
But on the way out, it was before the first show of I guess we were probably out for a few days, but we were playing football in the parking lot while we were hooking the trailer up and screwed through like just a perfect spiral. I was on a rope and I was awed by the beauty of the pass, and I had my hand out and I forgot to catch it, and it just turned my finger and it looked like a lightning bolt.
Holy shit.
Like my knuckles stacked up on each other.
Did you have to drop off the tour?
It was like a weekend run. I think we were just out by ourselves for it, 3 or 4 days. But it was my finger was broken, so we had to play the first show that we ever played at the Knitting Factory with leftover crack, and my finger was in a splint.
Whoa.
And probably didn't play very well. I think we did okay though. It was crazy because the show, you know, was sold out, and I don't think that was the show where they blew up the paper mache twin towers.
That did happen at the Knitting Factory though, didn't it?
Oh yeah, we were there. We were at that show when they did that, and so we played with them. It was the same summer. It was Memorial Day and Labor Day, and I don't remember which show it was that they did that, but we were there. It was not, the after effects were not good.
What was it like I don't even understand. It's so confusing to me. So what, he built this like paper mache model and then at some point went off stage and brought it on? Like it.
Yes.
That's what he did. It's so crazy, man.
And they filled it with smoke bombs and then crashed a model airplane into it.
Like a remote control airplane?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was in his hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so weird. Like, for what purpose? Like, do you ever talk to him about that?
It was a political statement, and I think I don't know, man. I never talked to him about it. I never asked him about it. It would be hard, I think, at the time to get on that page politically. I valued I think all of us valued our friendship with them, and it wasn't really a thing that we talked about. We didn't see him for a while after that happened. We didn't play that many shows until later, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's weird.
He's a provocateur.
Yeah.
That's part of the thing, especially back then. They were pretty outrageous politically and said some things that made a lot of people really angry. But at the same time, there were guys in the band that were there helping pull people out of the rubble that day.
Yeah.
On 9/11, So sometimes one must separate somebody's politics from their actions, I think.
It's
a harder thing to do when you're a kid.
It's strange because it doesn't like offend me. It's just weird. Like, I never thought to like make a paper mache volcano with some baking soda, volcano, and pour like, what is it, like vinegar into it, and like, that's something you would do at like a science fair, but not, at a punk show. It seems so, I don't know, like. Just a weird thing to do. Like, what was the crowd's reaction? And like, I can't even imagine. There's no videos of that happening that I know of.
I would say results were mixed at best.
Yeah.
Like, New York City was not probably the place to make that statement at that time. The Ground Zero is not that far from the Knitting Factory. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to remember because it was all so new and fresh, and
And what's really weird is that their album came out on that day, didn't it? Like, Mediocre Generica came out on 9/11.
I think it did, man. I don't remember exactly, but I think you're right.
That's really like kind of eerie. It's weird, man. So just kind of like adds to their lore. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah. If that is in fact right, it is definitely part of the more diabolical tale.
And the crazy thing is, like, I felt like I was of the first of their fans because we drove out. Well, we were young. We were like 15. The original bass player of No Cash's dad drove us out to see them at the Knitting Factory, and they were opening up for Zeke. They were the first band. They were like opening the show on like a 4-band bill, and it was me and like my 4 friends and one other guy who only knew Crack City Rockers because I think Give 'Em the Boot 2 had just come out. So we're like seeing them, and it's just, you know, when you go to a show and there's nobody there, but you don't care because you're excited to see the band. So you and your like 2 friends are moshing anyway, you know? And like within like a month, I felt like they were selling out venues and headlining big shows. It was so crazy. It just like happened overnight.
For our genre of music at this level, although they're not at this level, I mean, that was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd never seen anything really like it. I remember we played a show with them in Georgia somewhere. I think we were in Athens. And the line to get to the merch table was out the door and literally down the block to the next building just to buy merch.
That's got to be a good feeling.
I don't know anybody else like that was doing sort of ska punk at the time that had that same kind of thing going on.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's weird because like Against All Authority was doing kind of a similar thing, but like with me, that band didn't like grab me, you know what I mean? Or like Suicide Machines were kind of along that vein, but that band didn't really grab me either. I don't know what it was. Like, I'm not saying that I don't think that those are good bands or that I, you know, if I heard them again, I would, or if there are certain songs that stand out to me, but like Infested off of Give 'Em the Boot grabbed me immediately and was like, okay, this is my favorite band now. This is my favorite style of music. This is my identity now. You know what I mean? I think the same was for a lot of kids, and the phenomenon continues. Like, I've got, you know, mixed feelings about it. I don't know where I stand with those guys. We seem to have had like a falling out somewhere along the line. Like, not really me and, you know, the other, I just did a podcast with Aura, man. Like, that was cool as hell, you know, but at some point in time, we were no longer part of their world. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, which was kind of sad for me because he also had taken us under our wing, or under his wing. You know what I mean? He's responsible. Like, I don't give Morpheus Records any credit for the popularity of No Cash. That was all Leftover Crack putting us on and bigging us up. Like, and he was so cool to me in the beginning, which was like amazing because he was like my fucking idol, you know, but, he sent me a tape like early on. Like, it was so crazy before Mediocre Generica even came out. He sent me a cassette tape of rough mixes of Mediocre Generica. And on the flip side of the tape, and he wrote me this letter and I still have it and everything. On the flip side of the tape was American Steel, like half of the Rogues March album, and then Daycare Swindlers, half of New and Tasty, like a weird segment of New and Tasty, like the middle 6 songs or something. But it, but it was enough. Like Big Show, I think, was on it, and it was enough for, you know how it was, man. Like when you would get a tape, and then all your friends would dub the tape, and then that was how Daycare Swindlers took off in my fan base, and or my, not my fan base, but my social circle, and eventually throughout my town. And like Daycare Swindlers was a Nazareth favorite, you know what I mean? And Nazareth's been a punk town. It's crazy. Like, I actually wanted to ask you about this. When y'all were on go-kart, I don't know like how familiar you were with the rest of like the go-kart alumni, but there was a band on there from my town, Nazareth, called Weston. Did you ever hear them?
Yes. Yeah. I don't think we ever met or played with Weston, but they were on the roster when we when we signed.
Yeah, see, it's crazy. Like the lead singer of that band, I think he was also the bassist, was my babysitter when I was just asking my mom about it this morning, and she's like, "Yeah, you used to love when Chuck would babysit you. He'd take you to the park and he'd bring you back and be like, Chris went down the slide 25 times." Like, it's just so funny to hear, but like YouTube, man, is so amazing. I was like watching the way it came up again was because and they were an important band in my childhood, like 1996 when Got Beat Up came out. That was a big deal for my town, but I'm playing bass with the guy now playing in the band, like starting a new band, like new Mad Conductor lineup with the guy who lives up the street from me, like just by coincidence, like moved in right up the road. And he was into a bunch of like local Lehigh Valley and Nazareth punk. So we started talking about Weston and then pulling up videos of them playing on YouTube in 95. It was so crazy. And I was just like, man, I got to ask Reiter about them when I talked to him, because then I realized the link between you guys. You're both on Go-Kart, but I guess there were a lot of bands on Go-Kart too. Like Anti-Flag was on there. It was a pretty good label at the time. I shopped Run Your Pockets to them, and they told me that we weren't ready. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
Really?
yeah.
Huh. Run Your Pockets is so good. Such a great record. I still listen to it. There are songs on it that always get at me. There's like Gasoline. Every time I hear it, there's like a little emotional beat that I feel. You know?
Oh,
and it's
cool, man.
I still love that song. And
thank you.
I think that record is great.
You,
I would argue that Run Your Pockets is a far more complete record than the record that we put out on Go-Kart.
really?
Yeah, for sure.
You know how it is with your own music. I cringe a little bit at it. There are songs that I really like that I think were like, you know, well written for our age, but what I cringe at mostly is like the juvenile lyrics are kind of just like, I don't know, a little embarrassed about them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the thing about being in a band that doesn't have the machinery around it that, you know, that bigger bands do. There's no one there telling you no. There's just the 4 or 5 idiots in the band.
Yeah.
And you all think it's a great idea at the time. So there's this great quote from Neil Peart from Rush, and someone asked him about like the first 3 or 4 Rush records, and his analogy was that they were like paintings that a child had made that hung on the refrigerator for too long. And that is exactly how I feel about the first half of our catalog. I'm glad it came out, and it is so amazing to me that people like those records and all of that shit. But I really wish we could make it go away.
Really? Wow.
I wish
man.
we could just start later. You know what I mean?
I would be super sad if there was no first 3 Daycare Swindlers albums, man. Like those are,
I know.
To me, those are timeless records.
I know. It's funny how, I mean, it's all perception, right? For me,
yeah, totally.
When I go back and listen to them, and I don't really listen to our music very often, but when I do go back and listen to it, all I hear are the mistakes. I hear all the shit I would do differently now. I hear a lot of stuff that I would change and I can't. So it's sort of like a lesson in powerlessness. Like, oh man, I would change like 1,000 things literally within a minute and a half of this record, and I can't.
Do you feel like, when I think about, like, when people tell me about or talk to me about No Cash, I feel like removed from it. Like, you know, I'm polite, like, thank you for a compliment, but at the same time, inside, I don't even really feel like it was me. You know what I mean? Like, it's something else. That was like another entity. I don't know if it's because it's so long ago, but I've also undergone so much change. Like, I don't know. like once a band,
Well,
like
you're, you know, sort of your musical career has been way more about Mad Conductor than it was about No Cash.
for sure, No Cash
The
was a short run. It was like 3 or 4 years, whereas Mad Conductor is what I've been doing since then.
right, and No Cash is the one full length,
Yeah, one full
and the
length
shows
and
you guys and a split, and what else was there?
just like some shitty demo recordings, a couple live recordings at shows that we played terribly at. you know, like,
Yeah, so the body of work that I'm sure that you're most connected to has to be Mad Conductor because you've put out a considerable number of records.
yeah, and it's coming to the point too where some of the Mad Conductor stuff is old enough for me to be like not cringing at, but being like, probably shouldn't have said that. you know what I mean? Or like not necessarily musically. Like I really think that the music that I made with Mad Conductor, and I had Dan along my side, so Mad Conductor was so much more mature than No Cash because I was working with the mature adult. You know what I mean? Dan was like, when we got together, I think he was 45, I was 20, like, or maybe he was in his early 40s, but it was like, I respected him like an elder right off the bat. So I like, for example, the first lyric of the first song that I was going to do with him before we like incorporated ourselves was motherfuckers. It was like, motherfuckers, get your gas mask strapped. And I felt embarrassed to say that, and I was like, I got to come up with something. And then he was going through these effects and showing me something. And do you ever see that or use that like cheesy effect called a metalizer? Like a vocal,
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like the worst effect. Who uses that effect? It's so terrible, but he had it on one thing and he was like, yeah, this is a metalizer. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I changed the lyric. I was like, metalizers, get your gas master. And it didn't make any sense, but that kind of became like a theme for Mad Conductor. Like, instead of cursing, I would just find some weird word to use instead. And then that made my lyrics so much more colorful and like unique. And that became a theme for it. And that was like a product of wanting to be more respectable, like, whereas No Cash, it was about like, I don't care about respect at that point in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that was a hallmark of the time. I mean, that was the music that we were making back then. It was aggressive, it was angry, it was certainly political, and it was in some way meant to offend.
Yeah.
And when you have to sandwich the idea into a minute and a half to 2.5 minutes, there is not a lot of depth, or certainly a limited amount of depth you can get to. So if you want to offend somebody, you're going to play super fast and you're going to say fuck a lot.
Yeah.
And those are your tools. But in Mad Conductor, where the songs are longer and they flow and they have, parts and shit, you were able to say and are able to say a lot more than you ever were, I think. Well, I mean, No Cash songs they had some length to them, but you were still doing that punk rock thing.
Totally. So that's one of the things that makes me cringe. Like, it was a little emo and like dramatic at times musically, and that was one thing I wanted.
No Cash was?
Yeah. And that's one thing that I always loved about like Beastie Boys, is that they never conveyed emotions such as sadness or like even anger, really. They were just like cool. And that's what I wanted to try to like embody with Mad Conductor, but I don't know, like I'm clearly not as cool as the Beastie Boys. So like now my music's kind of coming full circle and I'm like admitting again more like who I really am, and my music is starting to get a little angry or a little more aggressive. But it's cool because it went full circle. Like, I did a lot of exploration, when I left punk rock, like, I just opened up my mind to the music of the world and of the universe, like going back in time and finding shit from like the earliest recordings on, and brought it all back. And now I'm doing I don't know, it's almost more like a No Cash Mad Conductor hybrid, like the latest stuff that I'm working on. I'm actually working on a song with Noah. I think you know that. Like you were helping him with the files or something.
Oh yeah. I kind of walked him through how to do a couple different things in Logic that he needed to do
cool.
so he could.
Yeah, so that's kind of like
man.
That's like a fun, like punky hip hop song, but yeah, I'm excited about it. It's cool. Like never did a song with Noah all this time, but sometimes shit just takes time, man. Like comes around when it wants to come around, you can't like force everything, in the course of life. It's weird.
Yeah, but that's what I meant before. Like, we're still in each other's lives, so these opportunities still exist to collaborate and make music together.
Yeah,
that's
and
pretty cool.
You played a role in Run Your Pockets. You mastered that album.
That's right. I did master that record.
Do you remember doing that work?
Yes, I do.
Did you do much in the mastering? Like, was there a lot of EQ or what was that process like?
Now you're asking questions. Let's see. I think that recording is cool. It's a really good recording. So if you get a good recording to start with, mastering is a lot easier. That record was kind of made before Volume Wars started, so it didn't get crushed and turned up super loud. I think there's a couple holes in the low end maybe, so I tried to round out the low end a little bit. I don't really remember, but that recording is really good. That's a really good sounding record.
It was a treble driven album for sure.
Yeah. So the bass is, if there's any complaint about the actual mixes, the bass is a little light. So I think we rounded it out a little bit and did standard stuff to it, compressed it a little bit, just little general EQ over it, in addition to put a little sheen on it. Probably it was pretty crunchy in the top because of all the guitars. So we probably smooth that out a little bit.
900 guitar tracks per song.
There was a lot of guitars on it. But it sounds powerful.
This is the guitar that just rings an octave of what key the song is in the entire time. Here's one where it's pinch harmonic every other measure.
Yeah, that's what made that record cool. It's crazy. I don't know. It's a very cool record. I still, like I said, I still listen to it and I still like it.
The guys and I are actually working on a little thing right now. Just
really?
A little like goofy cover song that I don't know. Like the guitarist was hitting me up and we didn't talk for years and we just started chatting and he's like, "Yeah, man, if you ever got anything you want me to do some guitar on, like send it over." And I was like, "All right, like you want to play some ball? I got some shit, dude." I'll tell you what it is. I don't want to say on the podcast. I want to keep it secret until the day it drops. That's my new philosophy with music, man, because with Mad Conductor, like years prior to now, like I would try to hype things up to no end. And then when it dropped, it always felt like lackluster, So now I don't say shit, dude. I'll work really hard on a song for like 3 or 4 months, getting it just perfect. And then one day I just post it online. I'm like, "Oh yeah, here's a new song." And I think people give it a lot more love that way. You know what I mean? So like, I would hate to be like, "No Cash is working on a song." And then, and I don't even know that it'll be No Cash. I think maybe as a joke, we'll call it our original bands, which was the guitar player for No Cash and I were in a band called Aluda, and the bass player and the drummer, who were brothers, had a band called Jinx. And those were our like middle school bands. And like, but like No Cash was my high school band. These were our middle school bands. So maybe we'd release it, be like Aluda featuring Jinx. And people like, who the fuck are they? But he was texting me about it today. It was so crazy. It was like I was going for a bike ride with my girlfriend and I had Reradiate on in the van And then I got a text from the dude from No Cash, got a text from Noah, got a text from Dan McKinney, like all in the same 15 minutes when I looked at my phone, and I was just like, man, my life's awesome. You know, I had my Daycare Swindlers shirt on today too. It's so crazy. This isn't the first time it's happened that I've been doing a podcast with somebody, and that morning I reach into my laundry because I keep my laundry like piled up in a ball on a chair in my room instead of folding it and putting it in the drawers, you know? And I just reached into the pile and pulled out my Daycare Swindler shirt. And I'm like, that's crazy, man.
Is there a rule for that? Like you shouldn't, is there etiquette? Shouldn't wear the shirt of the band you're going to interview?
I don't subscribe to that philosophy. I'll wear a band shirt to that band's show every time, unapologetically.
I support that.
Hell yeah. It's all I own is fucking band t-shirts. So it's gonna be a 1 in 12 chance that I'll be wearing that shirt anyway. I don't have a lot of, my clothes are pathetic, man. Like that's one thing about being a musician. It's like any like extra money that I would get, as if there's such thing as extra money, is, going into new cables or, it's like, okay, I could get shoes or I can get this, XLR to 1/4-inch cable that I need. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. I've been slowly getting rid of all of my black band t-shirts because we have 2 Siberian Huskies and they shed fucking constantly.
I know that game.
Every day when you reach into the drawer, even though everything's been washed and is clean, there's still dog hair on it. So in the morning, you spend 15 minutes lint rolling yourself before you go out the door. And finally, I just, you know what? Fuck this. I'm done. I'm only buying charcoal gray or lighter. So my band t-shirt collection is shrinking.
Yeah, I actually just retired all my Mad Conductor t-shirts, of which I had about 10 of them. But they just no matter how many times I washed them, they still smelled. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah, I knew.
I'm like, these things are done, man. But no, I couldn't stop wearing black. Not yet. I'm too angry, man. I got to express my rage.
I hear you. It's tough. It's a big transition. It's a practical choice. It does not reflect any sort of aesthetic change. I just can't lint roll anymore. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. Well, they say actually that lint rolling is also good for tick control. If ticks will go on to dark clothing and you can lint roll it. And it's I saw this thing online and the guy rolled himself after being in the woods and there were 12 ticks on the lint roller. I don't know if it's that bad in Virginia right now, but y'all aren't far from us, and every day I feel like the newspaper's sharing some new article tick scare reaches all-time high, and now they're carrying some crazy new neurological disease that has no cure. So we're all just spraying ourselves down with peppermint and shit every time we go out, and essential oils. Yeah, it's no joke, man.
Peppermint does work. Mm-hmm. Peppermint does work. My wife is super into the essential oils thing. She swears by it. Our house smells fantastic. It smells like peppermint. But
I love peppermint, man. Dr. Brahmer's peppermint soap, that'll wake you up, man.
It's a good smell.
Yeah.
And it feels good, too.
It does. Yeah. It's invigorating.
It is invigorating for sure.
Yeah. And Dr. Brahmer's is just the perfect, because you can I feel like that, you get down to the bottom of the bottle and you just fill it back up to the top with water and it lasts another 3 months. It's oh, still sudsy, still burns my face. So
still sudsy.
Yeah. I wash, you know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Hygiene is important as we grow older. Can practice hygiene with more regularity.
That was one,
be true to ourselves.
Dude, that was one punk thing that I could never get behind. I didn't understand, I don't shower for other people. I shower for myself because I get all itchy and rashy and nasty. If I take a shower and it's relaxing and nice, I don't not, I don't get it. How is that in defiance of the man? You know what I mean? To like not shower and not brush your teeth. Like I don't want a bunch of rotting teeth in my head. Like I'm big time into brush, floss, shower, like I don't know.
Yeah, brother. I'm right there with you. I will express my political discontent in a different way. But
Yeah.
I'm taking a shower. Fuck you, man. I'm gonna floss too.
Oh hell yeah.
I don't. Yeah, it's not. It gets to a point really where I just can't stand being in my own skin.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's gross.
If I'm not clean. Like I can feel it on. It's like wearing an extra layer of muck.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Totally is what
It'll keep me up at night.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe that's an OCD thing. Like if my fingernails get too long, it's ever happened to you? So my fingernails get too long. And fingernails are weird because one day they'll be the right length. And the next day they'll be too long. And it will drive me insane. I never go anywhere without nail clippers now. And
Oh
if
hell
I
yeah.
happen to find myself in a situation where I have no nail clippers, I am at unrest and literal dis-ease until I can get my nails the correct length.
Yeah, I've done
Is that
my
healthy?
nails.
That's probably not good.
I've been at like work, and I got my tool belt on. I'm doing some like siding work or whatever, and I'm getting dust under my nails, and I'm like, damn it, I wish I could. I've taken the box cutter, man, with the fresh razor blade on and careful.
I've no,
a bunch of times, not like once. I've probably done it like 30 times or 40 times in my life, and you just carefully run that. Sometimes you fuck up and you cut in a little too deep, but it's fine, man. And then you get done and it's okay. But dude, did you ever, this is a weird conversation, but did you ever?
Oh, you're making my teeth feel funny. Like I can feel what you're talking about and it's fucking me up.
Did you ever take the file? Like, you know how some nail clippers have that little file and digging tool and actually do the file? Dude, it's like the nicest thing in the world, man, when you file them down and they're super smooth. Like I don't do it every time, but on special occasions, it's like, I don't know, man. It's cool. I'm into it.
That's high level. That's the finishing move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for sure, I can relate
polishing.
to you. I keep a set of nail clippers in my bag that I take to Kung Fu class, and I have a bag on nail clippers like on my desk in case I get there and I'm like I forget, and then I just But my fingernails grow faster than my toenails.
Yes.
Yeah, is that normal?
Yes.
Like I feel like I trim my fingernails maybe once a week, toenails maybe bi-weekly or sometimes less. I don't know. Maybe
Well, you probably see your bare feet a considerable amount because in Kung Fu, right, you are barefoot.
I'm barefoot, yeah.
So you would know better than I do because mostly my feet are encased in socks and shoes.
Some dudes come in, with some like fucking talons growing off of their shit. And I'm like, and one of my students, who's the original keyboard player in the Mad Conductor live band, he's a classical guitarist and he grows his fingernails long, which is kind of like, you're not supposed to have long fingernails if you're going to be like sparring with people, but I can't ask. I can't ask him to cut his fingernails. So I'm going to wait until he slashes somebody's cuticle to say anything. I might have mentioned it once and it was like, I don't know, maybe a glove would work or something just to cover him up.
Yeah, glove. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, they're long too. And I mean, he's a phenomenal player. So like I said, I don't want him to not be able to all that finger picking stuff would be like.
Yeah, he's got to have it.
Yeah.
You got to have it. It's part of the game.
Yeah, totally. It might just be on the right hand, but this brings me back, like you were saying in the beginning of our conversation about like the hardships of touring. And honestly, man, I really don't miss like pulling up to a venue. You're there 2 hours early, so you're just sitting in the parking lot outside. Then afterwards, you go back to somebody's house and they're all smoking cigarettes inside and you got to sleep like I don't miss that stuff. What I miss is playing. You know, I do like, I really can't wait to get my band together, and I'm just like a couple players short of having a lineup to be able to do some shows again. And it's coming, it'll happen. But one thing about tour, like people would always say, yeah, man, been on tour, so, you know, we haven't washed our clothes or showered in weeks. But I never had that. I was showering every night on tour, no matter what, you know, like I wouldn't even ask sometimes when we crash at somebody's house. I'm just like, there's a bathroom, beeline it in there. Like might even use a strange towel or something, but still I'm getting showered, you know?
We would do the thing where we'd be crashing at people's places, whatever. And then every once in a while we would get a hotel room.
Oh, hell
so we
yeah.
could shower.
Dude, that was just heaven.
Yeah, that was the best. Well, mostly it was the best. As I'm sure you guys did too. We stayed in some pretty sketchy hotels. But every opportunity you get to take a shower, I took one. It's just gross, especially if you're the drummer and you're out in the summertime playing, you know, some stage, no air conditioning. It's gross. You know, you sweating through your shoes and your underwear. Ugh. You gotta shower.
Yeah, and I used to have this thing before I shaved my head where like my scalp would get super itchy, like to the point of torment. Like it would keep me up, and I would have to get out of bed. And like I remember one time having the dude driving, I was like, dude, you gotta pull over in the van. My head was itching so much, and pulled into this like Sheetz gas station or something. I can't remember where we were, and I ran inside. You know, they have the little like section of toiletries, and bought a bottle of Head and Shoulders and went into the bathroom and just like washed my hair. And I was like, the relief is like, oh, it's just nirvana when that, I don't know what it was, like some crazy dandruff condition. But now that my head is shaved, I don't have it anymore. But when I had hair, it was like, yeah, it was. And the thing that would feel best, pouring apple cider vinegar over it, like it'd burn, but it burned so good, you know? And then it just was like refreshing. You rinse it out. But I always smelled like vinegar, and people were like, why do you smell like vinegar? Like, well, because I pour vinegar on my head. Why else would I smell like vinegar?
That's why. Why don't you smell like vinegar?
I don't mind the smell of vinegar, though. It's appetizing to me. I'll put like just apple cider vinegar on a salad, man. I think that's good.
Yeah, vinegar is amazing. Although I think that if your body is producing that smell, it may be time to change something.
Yeah, but it might be good for like an internal like bug repellent, because I drink a ton of kombucha, which is super acidic, and I have a fair amount of like vinegar in my diet elsewise. And I feel like I don't get bit up as much as some people complain about it. And I'm wondering if it's because my blood is less palatable, because they do say to keep mosquitoes away from your dog, you can put like a shot glass of apple cider vinegar in there in like a full water bowl.
Ah.
Yeah.
Huh. Maybe I'll try that. Although I'm not sure that my dogs, there's one of them now, doesn't seem to be plagued by mosquitoes. We don't have a ton of mosquitoes where I am.
In Northern Virginia?
Yeah, we don't. Like, there are certainly places in Northern Virginia where the mosquitoes are nuts, and around the city, because the city is basically built on a swamp, DC is, there's mosquitoes, but we're pretty lucky where we are. Maybe it's just our neighborhood. Maybe everybody's drinking a shit ton of vinegar here.
There's just like some kind of acid in the water or something.
Could be.
Well,
it's gonna end my life, but I won't get bitten by mosquitoes.
Dude, the problem was like in New Orleans, it was a big scare for me with my dog about like the heartworm thing, you know? So like at one point, like I think in the beginning I was maybe kind of but I also had like reservations about like giving him, okay, so to keep my dog healthy, I have to give him pesticide. Like that seems counterintuitive. So
right.
I stood against it, and it was just playing the essential oil game and the, you know, the vinegar in the water. And even they say like garlic, like shove a garlic thing down his throat and that'll make his blood pungent and it'll be less palatable to bugs. But, so I would do that. I would jam my fingers down his throat with the garlic. He liked it though. He's into it. But, eventually I think I got too paranoid about it because I'm like a worrier. So I started giving him like heartworm medicine at one point, but he reacted very badly to it, man. He was having seizures, like bad, like he would just like lock up, and they were frequent. It was like every 3 days, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I changed his food. I got him a better quality of food, and then I took him off of the medicine. I was like, all right, it's, you know, I don't know what else it is, because after the food, he was still having the seizures. And I took him off of the medicine, and, you know, now he's fine. So now I got to be extra, like, vigilant with, like, you know, I don't think heartworm is as big as a scare up north as it is down south. But up here, we got to worry about the ticks, you know?
Yep.
And then one thing that's fucked up, I think I was also giving him tick medicine. But here's the thing, dude. The ticks will still go on the dog. They just won't bite him. So then they're tracking ticks into
bring him in the house.
They bring him in the house. And I was having him sleep in my bed at this point in time. Like, now it's just too big of a scare, but sleeping in the bed with me, and in the middle of the night, dude, I'm like, I think I feel something on my leg. And I'm like, I definitely feel something on my leg. And like, it's a tick. Dude, twice it happened. Felt a tick crawling on me. And it was just like so crazy. I can't believe that it woke me up, first of all. Just like a little tick. Like, how did I feel that, you know?
Ugh. No. Just no. Yeah. No.
Did you ever get bit by one?
Yeah, man, all the time. Like, when I lived out in rural Virginia, like near where Noah lived. Yeah, ticks were a way of life, and people were certainly getting Lyme disease and stuff, but it wasn't like it is now. It seems much more prevalent, tick-borne diseases than they were when I lived there. Hey, Chris, my phone is about to die.
Oh shit! Right on, man. Yeah, we're about like up to the 8:15 anyway, so that's cool, man. Are you there? Did it die?
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, it did die.
Yeah. I'm running. I'm on fumes. Is there anything else you want to talk about before I go?
Oh man, well, I mean, if your phone is gonna die, I'd hate to, like, you know, but I think we could wrap it up there. We're just talking about like bugs and hygiene now.
These are important things.
Hey, maybe you could say like, do y'all have any shows coming up? Like, what's the schedule looking like for Daycare Swindlers?
Oh yeah, I'll give you the schedule. So we'll be at Fat Tuesdays in Warrenton with Edgewood on July 15th. And then we're doing our 20-year anniversary show on August 5th at Jam and Java in Vienna. We'll be at the Hop Blossom Festival in Winchester on June 10th. I'm now out of sequence. Then we'll be the only other two shows that are booked right now. We'll be with Two Man Advantage October 20 and 21 in Manhattan, and then on Long Island. I know the Long Island venue is I think it's the Long Island Music Hall. I'm not really sure, but yeah. So that's what we got going on. There'll be more shows announced soon.
Dude, I'm fucking there.
Stuff, but that's.
Where did you say your 20-year anniversary show is gonna be held?
Jam and Java in Vienna, Virginia.
Okay, cool. I'm there, dude.
Cool.
I'm overdue for a Daycare.
It would be amazing to
show,
see you at a show. That would be so cool.
Dude, I have so much fun at your shows. I lose my fucking voice every time, though.
We'll make sure you have a place to stay and are well taken care of, my friend.
Hell yeah, man. Let's hang out. That'd be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much for having me, dude. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. It was great having you on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Bye, guys.
Peace.